Well, welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I have another very fun podcast here for you all. And for this one, I had to bring on a very special guest with me. He is another fellow wrestling super fan. Our friendship dates back to our days in high school, and he's a brand new father. Please help me welcome Jacob Masters. Jacob, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, dude. I'm really excited to have you, and I'm sure everybody loves the virtual background that you got there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Friend of me, right?
Absolutely, man. So before we get into the main event, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers who might not know you?
Sure, yeah. So like you had said, yeah, I'm a brand new father. My baby was just born about 3 days ago. She is incredible. Thank you. I'm excited to see where fatherhood takes me and what happens there. I love pro wrestling, which is what you and I have the most in common. Like, I think this is going to be great. We could talk for hours and it would never get boring. I'm a video game player as much as I can be, but I have to kind of support a family now, so I don't have much time to do so. And I'm a funny guy, I guess.
Absolutely, man. Very excited to have you on. Congrats on the birth of your daughter. Absolutely beautiful. How's the wife and the little one doing?
Wife's doing really well. She's
awesome.
Taking it like a champ. And then the little one is just very clingy, but that's to be expected.
Of course, absolutely. But yeah, we're here to talk pro wrestling tonight, as evidenced maybe by the purple shirt that I have on, very manly. This is going to be it's going to be another ranking episode. This is going to be the top 10 WWE matches of the 2010s. So basically, any match that took place from January 1st, 2010 to December 1st, 2019, pretty much all of those matches are in the running for this list. My God, this was a tough list to make. I don't know about you.
It was pretty tough. Looking at my list now, I'm like, oh, I got an Impact one on the list. I'm gonna have to use
really
real quick. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I guess top 10 WWE matches. I have. So just as a brief little spoiler, I've got 2 NXT matches on this list.
Okay.
And to be honest, I didn't really watch like a ton of Impact over the last decade. I think the last time I really was like hardcore into Impact Wrestling was the Aces and Eights storyline.
That's a pretty good storyline, yeah.
Oh, it was one of their better ones for sure. Like, definitely more underrated, I would say. But yeah, 2012 was also around the same time that the Claire Lynch storyline was going on, and AJ Styles, bless his heart, was a part of it. I was still keeping up with Impact. I wasn't like watching it from week to week, but it's mostly going to be WWE on probably both of our lists. I mean, I'm excited to see what you got. This is going to be. I hope they're different, but
hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. So without any further ado, I'm sure you guys know how countdowns work at this point also. So thank you once again so much for stopping by on the channel. To those of my viewers, if you're new here, just make sure to hit that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can, and just make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video by the end. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with number 10. And I'll have what's going to happen is Jacob is going to go first, and then we'll go kind of back and forth.
All right, yeah. So my number 10 is actually going to be AJ Styles versus Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship on December 5th of 2017 in Manchester.
Wow.
Yeah. So Jinder was on a WWE Championship, run. The company wanted to put somebody in his background as a champion because they were expanding to that market. It was not a surprise or shock to anyone, but it was a really good match. AJ Styles delivers 100% of the time. His complete WWE run was like great, but the best thing about it is like it was right before the versus Brock Lesnar match, so you were going to be like, well, is Jinder going to have this amazing match and be rocketed up? Even if he loses with Lesnar, he's in a match with Brock Lesnar. Like, is this going to happen, or is their Styles going to somehow win on a TV taping? And the fact that he won on SmackDown in another country, which I think is the first time, at least in the modern era, if you will, for WWE, made my list.
Yeah, no, that's that is a surprise. I honestly kind of like I remember that match, but I was just like, man, number 10. I definitely
Pretty good.
It was really good. I definitely enjoyed that match. Definitely give credit to Jinder Mahal where it's due. Personally, I didn't necessarily agree with WWE's decision to put the title on Jinder Mahal, to be specific, because keep in mind, he had only won like 2 matches or so en route to becoming the champion against Randy Orton from Backlash, I think, which was decent. And the Chicago crowd that night, I think, was really sarcastically cheering for Jinder because they just, I guess, wanted to see something different. And then, like, he holds the title.
Than Orton again.
Yep. And then he beats Shinsuke Nakamura for the... God, I'm still so peeved about that. Like, Shinsuke's first main roster loss. Oh, but... In any regard,
Jinder Mahal.
It's a Jinder Mahal for the WWE title. Never thought I would say that. But, I mean, yeah, definitely AJ Styles is the best wrestler in the world, in my opinion. Like, he definitely brought Jinder Mahal's, like, A game in that match. And Jinder Mahal, likewise.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I would put that as an honorable mention, personally. My number 10 is actually a women's division match. It's Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair and the Last Woman Standing from Evolution 2018.
Okay.
This is the feud that really brought the man gimmick to the forefront, really brought Becky Lynch, like, pretty much made Becky Lynch the face of the company, and for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, no. This was after SummerSlam, right?
It was, yeah. It was after SummerSlam. That was when Charlotte won the title, and then Becky beat Charlotte because she had so much momentum. WWE wanted her to be a heel, and they had like a brief trilogy.
That didn't work.
They had to turn her right back. Yeah, because the crowd was adamant and cheering for Becky Lynch. You know, because they were.
Oh yeah.
They were kind of sick of Charlotte Flair on top. And personally, I mean, I was never really that sick of Charlotte Flair. Personally, like. I always thought Charlotte was a good worker. Becky Lynch I've always had a soft spot for, though, and their feud in 2018 was really, really great in the ring. Their match at Hell in a Cell where Becky won the title, really good. Match at Super Showdown, not so much, but the Evolution match, Last Woman Standing, definitely felt like the end of a feud. It was definitely the best. Yeah. It was definitely the best match on that show. I love Evolution. I hope they do have an Evolution 2 this year, but
oh yeah,
just the weapon. Yeah, you know, just because the women deserve it for sure. Yeah, Evolution, that was definitely the best match on the show. Definitely lots of great weapon spots throughout. Yeah, 2 very different number 10s. I love it already.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to number 9.
Yeah, number 9 for me is going to be a women division match as well. It's going to be Bayley versus Sasha, but their NXT Brooklyn match.
Yes.
Right? So from the entrance that draw you in to the end of the match, I think there was a lot of great storytelling in that wrestling match. And you don't, you know, the women don't always get the 100% like storytelling time in a wrestling match. You would get stuff like that, like with Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, or recently like Edge and Orton, that really captivate you during it. And for them, they're like the main event. It was for the NXT Women's title. Sasha was the champion at that time, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah, she was the defending champion going in. Yeah.
She was the defending champion, yeah. But like her doing like the bank statement and then kicking like Bayley's hand as she was trying to reach the rope was just like, okay, well that was that time, right? Yeah, that's Sasha right there, right? That's the boss. That's the heel in her, if you will. And it's just like little things like that catch your attention. It's just it was awesome storytelling from beginning to end. It was one of the first, I think, women's division matches after Paige that I was like, okay, something's going on that's gonna come up and be completely different WWE.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, so Bailey, Sasha Banks. Yeah, definitely a great, great women's match for sure. Helped put them on the map. That match is on my list too. It's a little bit lower. I can go ahead and go into further detail about it when we get there. But my number 9
Yeah.
is a match I actually just watched earlier this morning, just to make sure that I wanted it on my list. It's the triple threat match for the WWE title from Royal Rumble 2015 with Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. That match.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, where do I even begin with this match? Brock Lesnar.
Was Seth gonna run out?
well, Seth Rollins was in the match like already. Like, he didn't like cash in.
No, I meant like, was he gonna win?
Oh, was he gonna win? Well,
yeah.
I mean, there were a couple spots. Definitely, this match had a lot of really amazing false finishes for sure. John Cena and Seth Rollins had really great in-ring chemistry, especially in 2015, around the time when John Cena was also doing the U.S. Open Challenge. But yeah, their counters and just everything about that match. And Brock Lesnar, arguably, I think was the MVP of this match. People can hate on Brock Lesnar all they want, and honestly, like I can agree with the viewers that don't really like Brock Lesnar as like he should not really be the champion because he's only part-time. I definitely prefer a full-time champion myself, but like people also don't really like Brock Lesnar because all he does is suplex people. And I'm just I'm just like, that's the whole idea, though. Brock Lesnar, like, just
Suplex City.
Yeah, he just beats the crap out of people with suplexes. Like, how many people can say that? And like, Brock Lesnar, like I said, in this match specifically, was a machine for sure. He like, there was also a point where John Cena and Seth Rollins kind of notice that Brock's gonna win if they don't do something about it. So they're an unlikely duo teaming up to take down Brock Lesnar, and Seth does a beautiful diving elbow drop onto Brock through the announce table, and Brock kayfabe broke his rib in that moment, and Brock was like, you remember, like they did like the
Brock
stretcher.
Was out.
Yeah, they brought the stretcher in. Yeah, it was like a bunch of EMTs coming to help him, and John Cena and Seth wrestle for about, I don't want to say 10 minutes. I don't think it was that long, but it felt like it. And then Brock finally emerges like he's the freaking mummy, and he has a great exchange with Seth Rollins. He goes for a curb stomp on the briefcase. Brock catches him at 5. He wins. You know, it's very simple match. I definitely loved it. I originally had this match higher on this list because I personally love triple threat matches. This is one of the best triple threat matches I've ever seen. But like, there were just other matches that I watched, especially earlier today, that were on my list that I liked more. So that's why I kind of like moved it down from where it originally was. But I definitely still love the match for sure.
That's a great choice, actually. I mean, personally, I'm with you. I love triple threat matches. I think it's not as, traditional as a one-on-one, and it's not overcrowding as maybe as a Fatal 4. Or, God forbid, if you're Teddy Long and you do tag teams, play.
Holla, holla.
Holla. I was watching a YouTube video, and he came out for it was general manager spot. He came out. It was funny. But no, I agree. Triple threats are just they're great because it doesn't give the edge to any one particular person, and you don't have to be pinned to lose what you have, right? Whether it's a championship or if they do Money in the Bank one time, or who knows, your contract for WWE or Raw or SmackDown, who knows?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And like most triple threat matches that WWE does, like you notice that there's one person outside, usually like taking a break, like taking a breather, and then you have 2 guys in the ring. This match, I didn't necessarily notice that, aside from actually like putting out Brock Lesnar through the table. Cena and Rollins went at it.
And that was the end goal,
Yeah, and then it was just like all 3 guys were very much involved throughout the entirety of this match, and there wasn't really a lot of like breather spots necessarily. But and another huge factor is this is on the infamous Royal Rumble 2015 show where the crowd wanted Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble. I wanted Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble, but WWE was just so adamant on giving the 16-year-old the keys to the Ferrari and Roman Reigns. He wasn't ready for the main event at that point, and I still fully believe that. I respect Roman Reigns so much now for everything he's gone through, but he just wasn't ready at that point. And WWE
No,
was
definitely not.
but this
And
match
Rollins could have won the Royal Rumble and have been better.
Yeah. I think I don't know. In hindsight, I don't know if that would have been like I mean, I would have liked it personally. He wins the Rumble 4 years earlier, but he also had the Money in the Bank briefcase, like the boot. So,
But think about that: you're the Royal Rumble winner, and then you still have your briefcase in case you lose the championship.
yeah, that's very
Or you
true.
become a double champion.
That is,
Yeah.
which seems like an insane handicap almost, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the announcers were even playing that up when I was rewatching this match. They were like, Royal Rumble is all about being by the numbers, and the big number for Seth Rollins tonight is 2 because he has 2 chances to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna cash in if he loses. You know, like I felt like he was only in that match to really take the pinfall at that point, but it's
Yeah. So it's not another John versus Brock match or whatever.
oh yeah. Brock and John. Brock would have just massacred him again. It would have been repetitive. But I'm so glad we had this match, and like it definitely saved the pay-per-view in a lot of ways because aside from this, it's very forgettable. One of the worst Rumble pay-per-views I can remember, in all honesty. But
well, you just talking about the match. I didn't even remember it was in 2015.
Yeah.
I remember the match. I don't remember the year. I don't remember the rest of the event.
Yeah.
Honestly. Except now the bad memory of even The Rock had to come out and The Rock got hella booed like he was Rocky Johnson.
God, like The Rock is my idol, and like just to see him walk out and endorse Roman Reigns, and he has that look of baffling.
He's like, I got paid to do this. Like
the confusion on his face of the crowd just booing him because he was raising Roman Reigns' hand. It's like, I don't know, but WWE was adamant. They had their choice, and
yeah, they pushed them. They wanted another John Cena.
It's just you just a big ball of suffering succotash, son.
God,
just those lines.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I had to remind you of that.
Thanks, man. Those bad memories. Bad memories.
All right, yeah, but moving on from 2015, what's your number 8, my friend?
Number 8 is going to be CM Punk versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29.
Okay, yeah.
So that would have been Punk's last WrestleMania, just after his historic WWE Championship reign. And I'm not being biased on this match. I am being biased on CM Punk in general. I still think he, at that time, was the best wrestler on the roster for those 2 years that he was fighting to get his push, right? But during that match, or rewatching that match, especially after the podcast he had with Cole Cabana, and he was saying that he had the biggest chip on his shoulder. I never really saw it that way when I first watched it. I thought it was just another, like, holy crap, if Punk wins this, I mean, like, his championship reign and then the streak, that would be awesome. Plus, Undertaker could go out with 20 years and 1 loss, right? Instead of that odd number we got a year later. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I liked his entrance music. So they got Living Color to play. I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's a different feel, right? The story, I thought was kind of pushing the envelope at that time because of Paul Bearer's death. But, everybody has their opinion, and there were sources saying that, the William Moody was his name, that his family was okay with it. And obviously his family would have had to sign off for being okay with it. I mean, for God's sakes, there's ashes out of an urn being placed on the Undertaker.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those weren't the real ashes. Like,
100%.
It'd be messed up.
But the fact that, like, they used the urn, as a source of the Undertaker's power, which it was, right? I mean, it's kind of more of a handicap for him if you look at his career, right? Like, that thing has either been beaten on him, there's a weird light that blinds him and makes him powerless, if you will. And the story was just great, right? You have a lot of things professionally happening that you hear on, like, dirt sheets, and a lot of things you see on TV, and you put them together because with Punk, it was always a mix of, like, well, is this a shoot or is this part of the story?
Yeah.
right? So that's why I said at that time I thought he was like the best wrestler, not only because of his in-ring style, but because you never knew if he was being Phil or if he was being Punk.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on a lot of those points. And that match definitely, I remember watching it when we ordered it live on pay-per-view. We had like a big like
Yeah.
WrestleMania watch party. When 2013, I think that was when I was a sophomore in high school. I'm pretty sure. Like
No, you were behind me, weren't you?
uh, I think you're Nico's age. Yeah, Nico's
No, it
two
was
years.
2013 when I graduated. Oh, so two. So
Yeah. So yeah, that would put you 2 years ahead of me. Yeah, but yeah, no, I remember watching that match live on pay per view. I remember loving it. I thought it was the best match on that WrestleMania card for sure.
Oh, definitely.
I would put that match personally as an honorable mention because that match, I loved it for sure.
Yeah.
There was never any doubt to me that the Undertaker was losing. No disrespect to CM.
Really?
There was no
Yeah.
disrespect. There was no disrespect to CM Punk at all. Like CM Punk appears on this list a couple of times for me. I loved his work for sure. Um, to me, it was just like, okay, I know this song and dance. The Undertaker's gonna come out. He's gonna provide this guy a couple of close near falls, and that'll be the end of it. Undertaker's gonna go 21-0. Like, and
Yeah. When it comes to WrestleMania, you would think that, but we also thought that a year later too. So
I was definitely one of those people, and like that's
100%. 100%.
I'm pretty sure that match is not going to appear on either of our lists. I'm just going to hazard a guess right now. Like I didn't like that match personally, but
Yeah.
like so I actually have a funny story about that match. Just as a side note, like I was watching WrestleMania live on the network, and this is like the first show that aired live on the network for $9.99,
Yeah.
and like
No.
so there was a lot of internet traffic for sure. I mean, for the most part, my feed went off without a hitch. But like one of the key moments where I had to go through some buffering and I had to wait quite a while was after Brock Lesnar hit that third F5. The referee counts 1, 2,
Oof.
buffering, and I'm just like, Undertaker's gonna kick out, isn't he? And then it stops buffering. The referee's hand goes down for 3, and I'm just like, what? It was like I just couldn't believe it. But I mean, as far as the CM Punk match goes, definitely loved this match with the Undertaker. Well, my number 8, that's actually where I put Sasha Banks versus Bayley from Takeover Brooklyn.
Okay.
So it's definitely an amazing match. It's the highest ranked women's match actually on my list. And Bayley, I've always kind of had like a soft spot for personally because she's from our neck of the woods in the Bay Area.
That's true, yeah.
And when she had that match with Sasha Banks, I was just like, man, this girl from San Jose is really doing this. She's making history, and the crowd is so behind her. Like, you go back and watch that match, and you listen to the crowd and their reactions. Like, they really want Bayley to, grab that proverbial brass ring. And
right.
In fact, she does, and the crowd just explodes. And the wrestling inside of it was among the best, like, women's wrestling, like, I've still ever seen. I think the only reason why this match isn't ranked higher is because the match is quite often pushed down our throats in some ways. I mean, for good reason. Like, every single time I go to an NXT house show at in San Jose, like, they always, like, in the pre-show, they always do, like, this little vote for the crowd to watch, like, a match before the actual live action gets going. And it isn't just like it isn't the full match. It's just like highlights of the match. But every single time, except for the last time I went, the crowd voted for Bayley versus Sasha because, I mean, they loved that match for sure. And
yeah,
I don't know. I definitely understand its impact. I feel like if it wasn't like, like forced upon me so much, like I would have ranked this much higher, but I definitely still love the match for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's a good match. It's actually, your number 8 and my number 9. So yeah, we're not far off.
Not far off. Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, for sure. But moving right on to number 7.
Yeah, so my number 7 was an Impact one. So I have to look at one of my honorable mentions to move it up. I'm going to have to say would be Chris Jericho versus Edge at WrestleMania 26 for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Okay.
Yeah, just because like my other two or my other honorable mentions will probably get around to that. They're very vague. Like there's not a specific match or series. So I guess with that one, I liked it because it was probably my second or third year of actively watching week by week WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to like Jericho. Go figure. You like the heel. And I this is before the network, so anytime I would watch the pay-per-view, it'd be a week or two later, and it'd be a YouTube highlight, with the really cool rock music, and it's like 5 minutes. It just does the highlights of the pay-per-view. So I watched the pay-per-view highlight, and that is when Shawn Michaels was going quote unquote like crazy, and he cost the Undertaker the championship.
Yeah.
So going into this, I was like, sick. Jericho's the champion. His music is awesome, and from start to finish, it was really good. I mean, Edge did the spear off the table to Jericho. There were a few times where the Walls of Jericho was always a Boston Crab, but I never knew his Lion Tamer, right? The other Walls of Jericho, if you will, that he does. And I saw that and I was like, oh wow, that looks like it hurts a lot. And I guess a little background kayfabe for me personally is I thought wrestling was real at that time. So I was like, shoot, these people really hurt themselves.
Yeah. I mean, to your credit, like a lot of those like submission holds like could not be comfortable. Like, the ankle lock for sure cannot be comfortable. Like, and
you have siblings, right?
and also like if you remember, Edge like was wrestling that match just coming off a torn Achilles tendon too. So the Walls of Jericho
came back from a career-threatening,
So the Walls of Jericho could not have been comfortable like with that injury in mind for sure. But yeah, that's definitely a really great match. Chris Jericho and Edge definitely have very good chemistry together. But you mentioned Chris Jericho being such an amazing heel and you loving the heels. I love heels also. My number 7 showcases like one of the best heel performances and one of the best heel reactions I've ever seen. Like not just over the past decade, but like in my entire like pro wrestling fandom. I've been a fan since like 2002. My number 7 is the unsanctioned match from TakeOver New Orleans, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa.
Oh man.
Tommaso Ciampa comes out with no music. His entrance music is pretty much the boos of the audience. They're chanting "fuck you, Ciampa." They're chanting like, the most derogatory chants you can imagine at this lad. And he is embracing every single moment of it. And this is a point where the crowd's pretty smarky. Like they're known for cheering the heels, especially over WrestleMania weekend. But Johnny Gargano was the most white-hot babyface on the NXT brand around that point, and they really wanted to see Johnny get revenge on Tommaso for doing what he did to him. And it was like, that reaction is probably the best, like, I don't know what the word for it is, like the best intended reaction, I guess, for a modern match, in my opinion. And the emotion running through that match was just so incredible. Their series of matches through 2018, I like this match definitely more than One Final Beat, which aired on NXT a few weeks ago, or a few months ago now at this point, rather. We've been in a pandemic for a while. But this is...
What year is it?
what year is it now? But Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, this is personally my favorite match between the two. And the ending also, the Gargano escape, he turns it into like an STF with a knee brace, and that's what makes Tommaso tap. It's
awesome. Yeah, their series of matches are my favorite technical matches of the last like 3 or 2 years. And it's funny because their story always kept getting interrupted by each other, right? It wasn't by another superstar. It was literally their health that always was their own heel, if you will.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it was like, I think they were going to fight a TakeOver New York also for the NXT title when Tommaso had Goldie. But Tommaso, that's when he went out with his neck injury. So
They
put in Adam Cole as a replacement, and that match was amazing too. That's an honorable mention. But it's like,
it was a really good match.
Yeah, this New Orleans match, I had never been like more invested like in an NXT match like probably ever, honestly. This was just so amazing. And I'm such a big mark for Johnny Gargano also, so that might have had a factor like, in putting it as high as it was, but
it might have.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but yeah, two very different number 7s for sure. I'm loving these lists so far. What's your number 6?
Well, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and it's in New Orleans as well. And the only reason it made my list, it should have probably been a little higher. It's going to be Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30.
Oh, okay. All right, there it is.
Yeah, that made the list because, I mean, how does any list not compile the streak?
Right? I stand corrected.
Yeah,
there it is.
I mean, when the streak ended, like you had to wait for buffering. I waited for buffering probably during the Andre Battle Royal, which was okay. But
had a good winner.
Not bad. I remember the network was out. You're right, the WWE Network for $9.99. It just came out, and I was downstairs in my house, in my parents' house, and I was watching it on my phone, so I could eat dinner, and travel or move around with it. And I was watching the Undertaker match, and I was like, "Oh, this is it. This is gonna be, another 22-0." But then when he comes out, and he looks like something's wrong from the get-go, right? Because he's not. I don't know. He's either not Fat Undertaker, he's not regular Undertaker, he's not Buff Undertaker. He is like going through whatever withdrawal or something Undertaker.
Yeah.
It didn't look like him where I was just like, there's no way he's gonna win that. Like, I was like, if he wins, it's because kind of like the John Cena Undertaker match, like it was a squash match. I was just expecting that. And then, you can tell that something's wrong, right? Everyone in the crowd can tell, like, yeah, he's dazed.
Yeah.
But I did not expect after the third F5 to see that hand go down for a third time. When that hand went for a third time, I dropped my phone and was like, wait, what did I just watch? Like, there's no way that hand hit. And the music guy didn't play anything. Justin Roberts took forever to say, like, the winner of the match. And the only reason I think he got reminded is because the Titantron said 21-1.
Yeah.
Because it was just, it's a speechless ending to the match. And the reason it makes the list is because the ending of the match. The match itself, 100%. He drops Brock trying to do a tombstone. They slip and fall every other time, like if it was Randy Orton, baby oil again.
Oh, yikes.
Yikes. It's the ending of that match where you're just like, is he done? Like, that's when the questions started. And then, you watch the Last Ride documentary like 2 or 3 times and you get told that.
Yeah. It's, and like, just as you mentioned, like the reason why it's not on my list personally, and I can completely understand why it's on yours. I stand corrected from what I said earlier. I think I said it wasn't going to be on either of our lists, right?
Yeah, it would be on honorable mentions probably.
Oh man, I feel so dumb now. But like, it's, but yeah, no, exactly to your point. Paul Heyman, I think shortly, like it was like a couple months after the match, I think he did a Talk Is Jericho, and he described the reaction to the 3 count happening being the equivalent of Bruno Sammartino losing the WWF title to Ivan Koloff in Madison Square Garden after Bruno held the title for like 8 years or something like that. And Ivan Koloff,
it was like 5,000 days.
Yep. Yeah. And like, it's just dead silent. And like, Bruno like talked about how he thought he went deaf when the 3 count hit. And Paul Heyman kind of felt the same sensation. And Brock did too. Like, he goes in the ring to greet Brock and he's like, and Brock's
Did
like,
this happen?
Yeah. And Brock's like, what's going on? And Paul's like, they're shocked. And then Brock's like, I've been shocked too. Like, it's, it's, but that moment, never gonna forget it for sure. I just remember my stomach like sinking. Like I knew
Yeah, you got that
exactly.
weird feeling.
Like I felt like
Oh.
something was definitely wrong for sure. Um,
Mhm.
I think also what happened to your point, the Undertaker was definitely a little bit woozy in this match. I think he suffered a concussion very early on. I think because
Mhm.
Brock's a very stiff worker.
Say that again.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I will honestly never forget that match for the moment for sure. The match itself, I mean,
It's a little forgettable.
I feel like they did what they could. I really liked the Undertaker putting the Kimura on Brock at one point. I think I remember
Oh yeah.
I remember laughing at the way Brock sold the Kimura. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well, it didn't look right because how Brock is this massive like rhino of a man, and then the Undertaker just looks like he's the geologist out of his prime a bit.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree
Weird
with you there.
analogy, but yeah.
No, hey, it's all good. My number 6 is actually from the same card. The opening match of that night, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H.
Ooh.
I was in a bit of a toss up between this and the main event, but honestly, like the main event, like once it happened, like I kind of figured Daniel Bryan was winning the WWE title at that point. But I mean, the opening match, you didn't exactly know for sure. I mean, like, I guess, like, you can say once they put, like, the stipulation of winner is added to the world title match, some people could have written Triple H off, but there was that little thought in the back of my head that was like, well, what if they actually do something that screws Daniel Bryan here? But, like,
Yeah, and they put
honest,
the star power in the front. Yeah.
yeah. But overall, I just thought the match was the better worked of the two Daniel Bryan matches that night. I felt like it was a lot more crisp.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was a better story that was told. The main event was definitely had a very good story to it as well. But you also have like the grandeur of like the entrances also, which is something that I think a lot of people tend to overlook. You have Daniel Bryan coming out like normal doing the yes chant, and seeing like that many people doing the yes chant at that point in my life was like I was definitely in awe, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, when's the last time you saw a whole crowd do a wrestler's manic gimmick or like catchphrase other than if it was Stone Cold or The Rock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Daniel Bryan was lightning in a bottle in 2013, 2014 for sure. And then you also have Triple H's like grand obligatory WrestleMania entrance where he's like riding a huge skull to the ring or something like that. He cuts a mountain.
No,
in
that
half.
wasn't that one. That was the one where
Was
Sasha,
it?
Charlotte, and Alexa Bliss take
That's right.
his
That's
thing
right.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
As the NXT ladies.
Yeah. Charlotte Flair.
Motorcycle one, I think. Yeah, motorcycle one, I think is 20 or not 29. The Orlando, Florida one.
Oh, yep. You're right. Yeah, that was the Seth WrestleMania. But like, yeah, I mean, point being, Triple H had a pretty grand entrance, and like people were always joking
His entrances are always grand.
Yeah, it's like, what's Triple H gonna do? I was in the crowd seeing Triple H come out as a freaking Terminator. Like you never know
That's
what
right.
he's gonna
That's
do.
2031.
Yep, it's like, but I mean, the match itself, I mean, definitely very well works. Definitely very cerebral, no pun intended. Daniel Bryan beats him with a running knee, and
Yeah.
Triple H beats him up afterwards. But yeah, I definitely think it was.
And you think he wasn't gonna make it?
Nope. And once he does come out, and Michael Cole bless Michael Cole's heart. Everybody who's watched these podcasts knows how much I respect Michael Cole, but how much I laugh at how cringe he is. Like, he coins it the miracle on Bourbon Street when Daniel Bryan wins, and I'm like, that's actually a good call. I'll give him that one for sure. I'll give him a pass.
Not or was it Yeselmania?
Yeselmania, yeah. I think Jerry Lawler coined that term actually. Like as Daniel Bryan was coming out.
Did he?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know if it was Michael Cole,
maybe.
But who knows? But
I like it though. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're at the halfway point of this list already. This is a ton of fun so far. I hope you guys are. Yeah, I hope you all are enjoying yourselves so far as much as we are. Getting down to the nitty gritty here, top 5. Our lists have been very different so far. Let's keep going with number 5, my friend. What do you got?
Number 5 would be at it's a WrestleMania match. A lot of good matches at WrestleMania, obviously, as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a triple threat match, and it's for winner take all, Becky, Charlotte, Ronda.
Oh, yeah, that was
right?
that was 35. Yeah.
See, after WrestleMania 30, you know how they stopped with the numbers. I don't even know what year we're in anymore.
Yeah,
but that is 35.
Yeah. Side note. Do you know why they stopped doing the numbers?
Oh, because
on the logos?
I think they didn't want it to be called like the granddaddy. They didn't want it to feel old, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Or like Vince himself didn't want to feel old, or like whatever.
I mean, the man's old. He's okay to be old.
Yeah, it's okay, but like, no, it's. I was just curious, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no. So I mean, the match is on my top 5 for obvious reasons. Like, it would have been amazing. Becky came back from an injury. Her tail to the main event was very muddy, if you will. It wasn't as clean, right? She was the hottest baby face in the company in general, women or man, at that time. And like the Royal Rumble got fishy, and then her injury from Nia Jax, and all the way up until there, where all of a sudden Charlotte's in there just because she's Charlotte. So I thought it was cool, and if Charlotte was involved, it was nice that it was a winner-take-all match, right? Like the winner gets to take both championships. I mean, for hell, those New York people were there till like, 2 a.m. is what time the show ended for them?
Yeah, I guess it's because the public transit.
So cool.
Yeah, public transit wasn't running like after WrestleMania, and like, that's part of why like I personally could not go to a WrestleMania on the East Coast, mostly because like if they were to do it like 2 nights, I would consider it, but like
I think 2 nights was a good call.
Yeah, but it runs late into the night if they just do it on that Sunday, but
but it kind of gave you like a remake of what you had on your previous entry, right? The Daniel Bryan kind of moment where it's like she was red hot coming in, and then sometime during the match it was almost like she was the underdog somehow. Like she's going against the Brock Lesnar of the women's division and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
So it was insane, but then when she came out on top, now what's your opinion on the finish though? Did you think Ronda just screwed up her placement in 3 count, or because they haven't talked about it? That could be easily a rematch maker.
It looks to me like a botch finish. Like it looks like like I don't know who's at fault here really, but like mistakes happen. That's the nature of the game.
I blame the cameraman.
I blame the cameraman. Yeah, just cut to a different angle where it's like,
No, I mean the other angle was fine.
The other angle was fine. Yeah, but that stretch of women's wrestling from like 2018 to WrestleMania 35 was just, I think it was the strongest. Personally, like you had the rise of Becky Lynch, you had Ronda Rousey on top of the Raw side. Charlotte Flair was kind of lingering around, and then you had Nia Jax, but I have very reserved opinions about her. But anyway,
see, that's the funny thing. Speaking of Nia, if we want to do a side note on that real quick, I'm a fan of Nia Jax. Like, I get everyone's reservations on her, 100%, right? But when has there ever been a quote-unquote plus-size woman in the WWE that felt like an unstoppable monster that wasn't somebody from a family legacy or China?
I think you had Karma or Awesome Kong.
Karma, she didn't make that much of an impact. She was in WWE for 90 days.
WWE.
And then she got pregnant.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, but like TNA and Impact, Awesome Kong was like, she was unstoppable. Like Nia Jax, like to me, the difference is like I can totally understand, and I'm sure Nia Jax is a sweetheart, and I'm sure she means well. But like, if I were a pro wrestler, I would not trust Nia Jax doing anything, you know, like,
Right.
because she is just unsafe. You know, I don't know, like, it's again very reserved opinions, but like to me
No,
she's
yeah.
injured. She's injured too many people for me to like, you know.
But can't the same be said about Rollins?
Yeah, yeah, I suppose that's true. It's yeah. See, injuries is a very touchy subject, but it's
It is very. Because
yeah,
everyone's going to say, like, they didn't mean it. And the person that got injured is like, no, this is what happened kind of thing. I mean, same could be said. I'm not trying to completely string away from our list here. But
yeah.
even like Sasha Banks, right? She
When did
was
she
in a
hurt
match
people?
that Banks did the kick on Nikki Bella and her back. Was it Nikki Bella? No, Paige.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember it being Sasha though. Like, I mean, you could be right, but
It
like,
might have. No, yeah, it was because that's how her little her depression uh really came out of her character and into not so kayfabe anymore coming out because people were blaming her. This was a house show, and people were blaming her for ending Paige's in-ring career, and she had just came back.
yeah, it's
But it was no one's fault. It was just
the same. I mean, same can be said. I'm gonna personally defend Seth Rollins here, like for a second, because a lot of people blame him for ending Sting's career with that buckle
oh
bomb.
right.
You know, and it's like, you know, that buckle bomb is just like Seth should not be doing it. You know, if it ends
And he
Sting's
stopped.
if it and he stopped, yeah, which is great. You know, but if it ends Sting's career, you know, like that's like freak accidents. You know, like
Yeah.
Samoa Joe stopped using the Muscle Buster because that's how Tyson Kidd's career ended. You know,
Oh, I know. That's a good
like
move.
yeah, and you know Joe
Yeah.
as in you know Joe and like I just listened to an interview with Tyson Kidd and he and Joe are on really good terms. But yeah, but
No, I hope.
yeah, Joe stopped using the Muscle Buster for that reason. So like accidents happen, but with Nia Jax, it's like way too often for me. But it's
It was more frequent. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, back to the triple threat match. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Back to Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda at
yeah.
WrestleMania. In case anyone forgot what we were talking about, that match is really good. I mean, it went on longer than I thought. The entrances, for me, when it comes down to wrestling, I like the theater part of it the most. Right. That's what drew me in the beginning. If I liked the fighting part of it, I would have just been an MMA. I would have liked MMA more.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the entrances were great. The the style of them trying to gain up on each other, right? There were a lot of let's bang up on Becky, let's bang up on Charlotte, let's bang up on Ronda, right? There were a lot
Mhm.
of uncanny alliances throughout the match that, obviously don't last that long. And there are a lot of cool spot fight. Like Charlotte does her top rope spinning backflip.
Which is a sweet move for sure.
It's an amazing move, and it's also scary as hell. And I'm glad it's like a what is it, like a pay-per-view kind of move for her, kind of like the Undertaker's jump outside of the ring kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah.
we
Scary.
might get to something like that later. um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the ending was just great, man. I mean, she pinned Ronda Rousey. She was the woman to pin the quote unquote unstoppable force in WWE,
Yeah.
right? Or I guess no pun intended. No quote. That's Nia's thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Ronda had not been pinned like that entire year leading up to Becky, and that was definitely as it should have been. My number 5 is actually another WrestleMania main event from a different year for very different reasons. Mostly
Okay.
because I was there in person. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns from WrestleMania 31.
That's an amazing match.
Oh, you know what? People can like harp on like, you know, Roman Reigns is like, oh, he wasn't ready for that match, but go back and watch that match and tell me that again. Roman Reigns was such a badass in this match, and he honestly, in hindsight, kind of proved me wrong. I mean, I'll play. I don't know if I should say devil's advocate here, but like I was one of those many people that was booing Roman Reigns for as long as they were.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because I didn't think that he was the right person to carry the banner, but like you know, I have so much more respect for him now in hindsight, and this match absolutely proves that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Brock Lesnar, like these guys, Brock Lesnar, I remember, like, you know, with my buddy, like at the show, I was just like, we should count how many suplexes Brock Lesnar does. And like the people that were sitting closer to the ring were kind of the ones that were like counting the suplexes. And I think somebody was holding up like a tally
A
sign
card. Yeah.
on a card. And like Paul Heyman was counting along with them. And like, you know, it kind of adds to the fun of the Brock Lesnar match, you know?
Oh yeah.
And you know, you have Roman Reigns taking all this punishment. Like he takes an F5 not even a minute into the match, and like he's taking all this punishment.
Oh, yeah.
He keeps coming back for more, and he's laughing at Brock. You know, he's like, "Is that all you got, big boy? Like, come back for more."
I'm saying.
This was one of the most stiff matches I think I've ever seen in my life. And you know, Brock, like, ending comes, Brock goes face first into the ring post. He's bleeding, which is very rare for a match around this time. And, you know, Roman is just like Superman punching, spearing him. Brock F5s him. And then you hear Seth Rollins' theme music. You know, like being, you know, being at WrestleMania was, you know, a moment I'll never forget. I can't wait to go down to SoFi Stadium for WrestleMania in LA eventually. You know, it's not going to be canceled.
Hopefully.
It's not going to be canceled. It'll probably be postponed. But in any regard, like, being at WrestleMania was one thing, but being there for the first ever cash-in WrestleMania history was just something else.
Man, you were so fucking lucky.
You know, yeah, Seth Rollins running out. Like, I really didn't want Roman Reigns to win. Like, and Brock Lesnar had just re-signed, but I was just like, it would kind of be an anticlimactic ending if he just retained the title like that. So the way this finish and this match overall was booked is why I have it so high. In addition to the fact I was there, but like Seth Rollins becoming the WWE World Heavyweight Champion in the heist of the century, it's a moment I'll never forget for sure.
Oh, definitely. I was I wanted to go that year and I couldn't do it. I couldn't get the time off from work, so I got off from work. And the thing that sucked though is I was there when the show was beginning, so I was working at like Oak Ridge Mall, and as I was leaving, I could hear some of the fireworks, and I was like, oh shit, who's on right now? So I'm driving as fast as I can to go back home. And at the time, I was still living with my folks, and I was like, "Hey, can we buy the pay-per-view?" We bought the pay-per-view, and my brother and I had we were eating dinner while watching it, and then I hear his theme music as I'm going to bite something down. I drop my food, and I was like, "No way!" I was like, because at that point, I had the same thought like everyone else. All right, Roman's gonna win, we're gonna hate it, or Brock's gonna win, and I'll watch on Raw and see what happens. Who comes back to beat Brock? Right? That was the expectation. You hear Rollins' music. Like, I don't think I fanned him out at my own place, right? And like ever. And my parents were looking at me all weird. It was an awesome way to end WrestleMania. Him swinging the belt around at the end, making sure like
which has become tradition for Seth Rollins whenever he wins a title Mania now. But
right, he spins the belt a little. Yeah, it's it was great. And then even the framing, right? Like from a photographer, videographer's like perspective, right? Like the framing, you see Rollins, you see the WrestleMania sign behind him, and then as he puts the belt up, boom, pyro is right on time.
Yeah,
and it's just an awesome shot.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely a moment I'll never forget, and that's why it's so high on my list. And I can't wait to.
It's a great pick, man.
Oh man, I can't wait to experience some of those moments again at SoFi. Even though it's at another division rival stadium. That WrestleMania was at the 49ers stadium, who I cannot stand. But like, you know, like and like SoFi is the home of the Rams, so it's like, you know, as a Seahawks fan, I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm here. So.
Oh, okay. I was over here like, well, I mean, what kind of fan are you, man? Are you Raiders or where you at?
Yeah. I know Nico's a Raiders fan. Shout out to him. But
poor guy.
So yeah, so we're getting down to number 4.
Number 4. All right. Number 4 is going to be the opposite of one of your picks from earlier. Again, it's Daniel Bryan, Orton, and Batista, WrestleMania 30's main event.
There it is.
There it is, man. The Miracle on Bourbon Street. I didn't think Brian would have won because of. I mean, the beatings they're real, right? Everything happens, but Triple H is a stiff worker too, and there's those talks of when Triple H was younger that if he didn't get what he wanted, something accidentally happens in a match, and he just so happens to retain or get what he wants.
Right.
And truth be told, I don't always think about the dirt sheets. I always try and just watch the show for the show. And I actually thought Brian was a little, too injured to use his left arm, because he was all taped up from like the shoulder down to his ribs.
Mm-hmm.
And him coming down to the ramp, Orton had his live theme music for like the first time. I thought that was sick.
Yeah.
That was different. And then the cool thing too is that he still had that arrogant look of being the first ever WWE World Heavyweight Champion, which I loved. I love that storyline of them combining finally the World Heavyweight title and the WWE title, and essentially just making it the same WWE title, just getting rid of the World Heavyweight.
Yeah.
But the double champion moniker just looked so badass, where you're like, whoever holds both belts is the man, right?
Yeah.
And Batista comes down, and it's Bautista, and that whole spiel, unfortunately.
Deal with it.
Bautista. I mean,
Deal with it.
The match was good. I love the Batista bomb RKO. That spot was great.
So awesome.
I felt bad though because you could see Orton land straight on a monitor, in the corner of a monitor.
Yeah.
At that.
Scary.
I was like, that's scary because it's his back. It's insane. Was it Orton doing the double DDT to both of them? But the best thing for me is Batista tapping, because he left WWE tapping. He came back to WWE tapping. And
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it gave Brian over, man. He did what the WWE gave what the crowd wanted, which I believe would be the first time that I know of where the crowd overcame the story writers and Vince into making it a show that they would actually like and be invested in, because how else are we going to say it besides not showing up or canceling our $9.99 subscriptions?
Yeah, $9.99. Yep, I remember when that was the whole
time
gimmick. But I couldn't help but I definitely really like that match, as we were talking about earlier. I couldn't help but notice the similarities to the WrestleMania 20 main event with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit, who I'm not really going to talk about a whole lot because he was not around in the 2010s, obviously. But it's. I just couldn't help but notice those similarities personally. I feel like
it was pretty good. Yeah, similarity wise.
Yeah, there's the ending with Daniel Bryan tapping out Batista. Chris Benoit tapped out Triple H. Pretty much in the same exact fashion, almost in the same exact submission hold too.
That's good actually.
I couldn't help but notice when Daniel Bryan first came into the WWE, I couldn't help but notice that his finisher was eerily similar to the Crippler crossface. And
crossface,
and I love Daniel Bryan so much more also than the other one.
Well,
and Steven Richards.
Than the other one.
And Steven Richards. But that's a good pick for number 4. My number 4 actually, for some slightly different reasons, it's also about getting a certain someone over. I have John Cena versus AJ Styles from SummerSlam 2016. This match was I could not remember a match on this countdown where I was more nervous watching it than this match, because in the build up, this whole feud, AJ Styles had beaten John Cena at Money in the Bank already, but AJ Styles needed to win this match in order to be put on the map, and I was really, really worried that they were not going to pull the trigger on it. Because, if you remember, John Cena had a bevy of different feuds with a lot of other new WWE talent, like Rusev and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, the
Like,
open challenge, it was awesome.
yeah, and like Seth Rollins even to an extent. He he ended up winning all of those feuds with those guys, and they kind of ended up, like Seth Rollins not so much, but those guys kind of ended up worse for wear. I mean, Kevin Owens ended up winning the Universal Championship the next year, but like Kevin Owens
Still mid Carter.
I still I'm still adamant that he needed to win that feud with John Cena. So I was really, really worried that they were not going to have AJ Styles win. And that match between the two, I think, was the best in their series. A lot of people peg their match at the Royal Rumble when Cena won the title for the 16th time as their best one. And I love that match too. But the reason why this match is on there is mainly due to the ramifications of afterwards. I mean, you have John Cena winning the title for the 16th time, which is cool. But how long did he hold the title? Like,
what is it? Oh, Cena? He held it for like a month, right?
Yeah, it was like a month. Might have only just been a couple weeks. Like, I don't know, but like,
it may not have been a month, but he only had it just for the moniker.
I remember he lost the title. Yeah, the next pay-per-view was the Elimination Chamber. He lost it to Bray Wyatt. Like the ramifications of this SummerSlam match where AJ Styles beats John Cena clean in the middle of the ring, no question. AJ Styles wins the WWE Championship the next month. And like AJ Styles, current Intercontinental Champion right now, he's still at the top of his game. And like, I don't know, just for the ramifications, and I remember how nervous I was watching the pay-per-view live. Like, that's why this is number 4.
I agree with you. I mean, like there were moves that you never saw Cena ever take, right? There was the Styles Clash was the first time he did the Styles Clash was John Cena, right? It was probably I think that pay-per-view. He did Cena did that weird what is it? A sunset flip pin. Like this is John Cena. Like he has the 5 moves of doom.
Like a Code Red.
Or like a Code Red. Yeah. There's a Kuchimako driver, whatever it's called. That's Styles did on Cena, where I was like, "Ooh, that's on his neck. That looks bad."
Oh yeah, you have Mauro Ranallo calling that match. It's like Uchi.
Yeah,
calling all those moves. Mamma mia!
Oh my god, I love it. But I mean, like that's an amazing pick for a match because it showed what Styles can do, and it also showed that Cena's more than just quote unquote Cena.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could be a decent wrestler, but he's Cena. So
Cena definitely brought out the best in AJ Styles. AJ Styles also brought out the best in Cena, and like. Yeah, I honestly think AJ Styles brings out the best in everybody that he wrestles. Like like Jinder Mahal, like we were talking about earlier.
I think he's this era's Shawn Michaels.
Oh yeah, without question.
It would be a great
I remember there was like a rumor floating around that Shawn Michaels was going to come out of retirement to fight AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble in the Alamo Dome. I mean, that's a dream match and a half, but.
That'd be a perfect okay, if wrestling ended today, that would be a good match to end on.
Yeah, totally. All right, so we're getting down to it. Number 3.
Whew. All right, number 3. It's gonna be the start of what was called Summer of Punk. Yeah, CM Punk versus John Cena, Money in the Bank, Chicago, Illinois.
There it is. Right?
100% biased in this match. I can watch this match every time, start to finish. I get goosebumps still from Punk's entrance. I purposely put the volume up in my headphones as high as I can to hear the crowd and hear the music go with the crowd. It's awesome because you can just tell that. Well, I mean, he's what is it? What do they call him? Hometown boy, right? So of course they're gonna cheer him on, but the whole story behind it, right? His contract's ending at midnight, which at that time before the match, his contract was ending. I think it was mid-card where he finally agreed to a term.
Yeah.
Or else he probably wasn't going to win.
So wild.
It's a wild match. And it was one of those other matches where Cena Matt wrestled. He didn't do his John Cena thing. He tried to adapt and wrestle. which was, I thought was awesome. And then you had your hint of the Montreal screw job at the end, and Cena punching Laurinaitis in the face is always fun to watch.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Builds up to their feud, which built into the next year's Money in the Bank, I think. Like,
yeah, it was something like that.
Remember when Cena fought Laurinaitis at 2 pay-per-views in 2012?
Dude, he lost one because of Big Show. Yeah.
His millionth heel turn of his career. Like,
poor Show, man. Poor Big Show.
Yeah, poor Big Show.
He punches him in the face. He punches him in the face. He looks at Mr. McMahon and he's like, "That's not happening," because he knows. Yeah, Mr. McMahon's like, he loses the championship, you're fired. Like, that's a great stipulation, Mr. McMahon. But let's not be hasty. You're not gonna fire your Hulk Hogan. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like
gets back in the ring, takes the GTS, hits the 1, 2, 3, and you're like, holy there's no way that he won the championship.
Yeah.
From the mat wrestling to the ending to the 1, 2, 3, blowing the kiss to McMahon and going through the crowd. Yeah. It was really interesting. I was surprised that they went along with the show. I would have thought that they would have the camera crew would have pretended to just look at McMahon and Cena and stop looking at Punk, because that's a guy taking the championship out of the company.
Yeah, it's an amazing visual. This match was very reminiscent of John Cena versus Rob Van Dam from One Night Stand 2006. Like,
that's a good match too.
It's great. Like, similarly.
That's the Money in the Bank match, right?
Yeah, RBD cashed in. Yeah, precisely. Yeah. So you have the most hostile crowd towards John Cena ever. And like, he still proves that he can wrestle in front of them. And like, even though that crowd chanted, "You still suck," I'm just like, I kind of disagree.
Booed him out of the building.
Oh yeah. If Cena wins, we riot, and this crowd with CM Punk was very similar because it was in Chicago.
Yeah. Like, Philly, Chicago, either or, they don't like Cena.
Yeah, I think you had Colt Cabana sitting in the front row, and you had everything with that match. So great. My number 3 is another CM Punk match. It's actually his match. It's actually his match against Brock Lesnar from SummerSlam 2013.
The Best versus the Beast.
Yeah, I actually, this was another match, as I mentioned earlier, that I watched this morning just to make sure it was where I wanted it on the list, and this one did not move at all. This was such an awesome match. It's the best Brock Lesnar match, I think, of the last decade. Because Brock Lesnar, like, this will please a lot of you. He wasn't doing just suplexes in this match.
Yeah.
You also have the added elements of Paul Heyman on the outside. And Paul Heyman was probably the most involved, like, in this match than any other Brock Lesnar match I've ever seen in these recent years.
Yeah.
Like, because they were also playing up the gimmick that Paul Heyman just turned on CM Punk at that point. And, he was going...
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah, he was going back to his homeboy, Brock Lesnar, to make him all the
money,
all the dollars. Yeah, but now this match, like, there were so many incredible near falls in this match, and so many good weapon spots also, because it was no holds barred. I think the crowd was super into it 100% of the way. Like, they did not let out their energy for 1 second. And here's the thing, though, with a lot of, like, the Brock Lesnar matches, this was before he broke the streak. Like, I remember watching this pay-per-view live. I was half thinking that CM Punk was actually going to beat him. And, like,
I'm with you on that. I think a lot of people thought maybe Punk could win the match, but that's great storytelling on his part. That bleeds into what I was saying earlier, right? Where he was the best at that time at what he was doing, because you couldn't tell if it was story or kayfabe, because he also had his red eye, his, like, just that blood vision on Paul Heyman.
Yep.
Right? And, like, Paul Heyman was the distraction. His presence just being there, you thought Punk was going to win. Punk could have won if it was a one-on-one, no Paul Heyman at that time before, Brock Lesnar got supercharged before the streak.
Yeah.
But Paul Heyman just being there is like any other valet. They did their job.
Absolutely right. Yeah, it's Paul Heyman as a valet. That's a interesting visual now. Oh boy, yeah. But that match, like, that's a match again. I feel like I could. That was honestly the first time I had seen that match in a while. Like, I remember loving it, And before I hopped on with you, I wanted to make sure I watched it again just to make sure it was as great as I thought it was. And lo and behold, here it is, number 3. Yeah, there were so many moments where I thought CM Punk could have won, but yeah, no, CM Punk was so good.
Many.
Oh, we're getting down to it, my friend. Number 2.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna do spoilers. The last 2 are WrestleManias, but what else is new?
Yeah.
I have Triple H versus The Undertaker 3, right, at WrestleMania 28. So the end of an era.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
You
one.
had everything in a story package culminate. Now, my theme, obviously, with this top 10 list is storytelling, right?
Yeah.
You had Shawn Michaels, who is recently retired due to The Undertaker, but is a special guest referee. Is he going to hang out with his best friend, or is he going to do what he's been saying out of respect, right? Mr. Godly Man.
Mm-hmm.
You had The Undertaker, who came out looking like a badass in the heavy robe of like, this is my time, or this is my stage. And Triple H coming out, being Triple H with his grand entrances. And then you also had the added benefit of the Cell had its own entrance for the first time, which is totally wrestling.
I think
Only an inanimate object.
It was lowered down to Metallica, I think. I remember that. Yeah,
it was. It was lowered
so
down
wild.
to Metallica because the theme for that, the music for the promo package was the same song from Metallica.
Yeah.
Which Memory Remains. That's the song.
Yep.
Yeah. Great song.
I remember that now.
But that was also the first time the Undertaker cut his hair. And then they were doing the whole like, oh, Undertaker went crazy for the year, and he was cutting his hair every time he had to rewatch the match from last year where Triple H he lost, but Undertaker was on a stretcher, so theoretically he could have won.
Yeah.
The year before.
Yeah, that's true. It's
yeah.
Yeah, I love that match too. It was, I remember definitely watching it live, and like I remember like, you know, just kind of like, you know, going through Twitter. I didn't have an account around that point, but I was just kind of like, you know, looking around WrestleMania 28, and I was just like, there were a lot of tweets that were saying this is the most I've marked out over any match live, and I'm like, you know, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
You know, all these.
Did you watch it live or?
I wasn't there in the arena, but I ordered the pay-per-view live. It was.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to watch it live. I was doing Twitter.
Yeah. I ordered.
I wait for the DVD.
Oh yeah, the DVD. Yeah, no, I remember buying that DVD and watching Rock versus Cena a lot. That Hell in a Cell match was definitely great. It did not quite make my list. I mean, it was very, very close. But that's not to say I didn't love it, because it was absolutely incredible. Not even Rock versus John Cena made my list. You know, like it's.
Oh, neither of their matches would make a top 10 list.
I mean, Rock versus Cena 1 would have made my list if there wasn't a second one, I think.
If it was really the once in a lifetime.
But Vince wanted them dollars.
Maybe.
Vince wanted that box office. That money. But, yeah, but my number 2, that's actually where I put John Cena versus CM Punk from Money in the Bank.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, again, I agree with all the points you were making about that match. Just CM Punk walking out, and if you remember, he was also the leader of the Nexus around this point. And, like, the Nexus was nowhere to be found. It was just John Cena versus CM Punk, which was exactly as it should have been. Like, and it was amazing.
Matches, none of that, yeah.
It was amazing. Again, I could go back and rewatch that match countless times. False finishes galore, Montreal screw job, callbacks, but yeah. So
it's a great match.
Absolutely, yeah. The GTS and John Cena getting panned is one of the biggest pops I can remember, like, over the past decade. Also kind of an underrated moment in the match is near the beginning when they're kind of circling around and the crowd is chanting "You can't wrestle" at Cena, and CM Punk gets really confused and he looks at the crowd and he's like, "Are you talking about me or are you talking about him?" And then the crowd cheers like when he points at Cena and he's like, "Okay, yeah."
Just double checking.
Yeah, just double checking. Yeah. And he, like, you know, they just keep going about their business in the match, but like. Yeah, that's my number 2.
Small stuff like that, it's great.
Yeah, that's my number 2, and this will play into my number 1 also. The reason why this is like so high on my list is because of the stakes. You were talking earlier, CM Punk, like his contract was expiring, and like he had signed a deal during the show, but we didn't know it at this time. So it was like, oh my God, is CM Punk going to walk out of the company with the title, you know? And sure enough, you know, he wins it and it's chaos and it's amazing. And he exits with the audience. And it's like, he's a free agent right now. You know, I could see him defending.
And all our minds, go anywhere.
Know? In a perfect world, if I were like, I was watching like how WWE should have booked the Summer of Punk, like through What Culture. And the guy was booking it like CM Punk was defending that title like through the fall in like Ring of Honor and New Japan. And I was like, that would be amazing. I don't know if WWE would have gone through with that. But at the same time, I'm just like, why did they bring CM Punk back after only 8 days? It's just like,
was it 8 days? I thought it was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was barely a week. And then they brought CM Punk
it wasn't
out.
long.
Yeah, they did like a tournament, I think, for the title, like for the vacant title. Yeah. Rey Mysterio wins the tournament. He's the champion for like less than a night. John Cena beats him at the end of the show, and then that's when CM Punk comes out with the real title.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that sucks. I was such a fan of the Miz during that. I'm still a fan of the Miz, but I mean during that tournament, I was like, dude, the Miz has got to win. And I think in hindsight, if the Miz won the tournament and became a 2-time WWE champion, good for him. But it would have made way more sense and a easier pill to swallow when Cena won an hour later.
Yeah.
Right? You got the ultimate underdog finally winning the company's title, and then the company man comes and takes it.
Yeah. It's
no rematch. It's
I
sad.
don't know.
But
yeah.
That's not the Summer of Punk.
Yeah, Summer of Punk was kind of aggravating a little bit in hindsight. But that match definitely takes the cake for sure. Number 2. But here we are, my friend. Number 1.
Uno. All right, number 1 for me, like I said, is at WrestleMania. I'm going to say it like they say, the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. I don't think it's in 2010. Unfortunately, I think it's 2009. I'm going to break the rule a little bit because this match transcends 11 years. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, right?
Yeah.
You talk about the perfect match, right? And any company that does like their shoot interviews or their interviews outwards, they always somehow reference that one in one way or another when they talk about, you know, a really good match if it came down to WWE, right? You immediately get lost in the entire match, right? Between the slow buildup of Shawn's quickness to The Undertaker trying to be precise, to his fade knee injury in the beginning of the match. In the first like 5 minutes, like, oh God, and then he goes over and does like a schoolboy or something on him. It's a great match. You got a lot of amazing spots in there. You have, you know, Shawn pulling over the cameraman to the Taker, which is extremely scary because you see the dent right in the floor from Taker's head.
Oh, yeah. He just like wipes out the cameraman. This
was probably my first few months of my first year of watching WWE is when I first started getting into this. And I can't tell you how many times I've watched that match. I had my parents buy me that DVD at the time because, you know, the network wasn't around. Yeah. I still have it, and it is completely like destroyed on the box because I've watched it so many freaking times. Like, the whole card is really good minus Miss WrestleMania's match. But
Santina.
Fuck no. But the Taker match in all its glory, man, between the tombstone and then the kick out and his face towards, you know, the fact that the kick out happened, you're like,
such an amazing shot.
You believe Taker was like, wait, I gave it all I had on this one. What do you mean he kicked out? To the close super kick, and you really thought, oh shit, all right, 16-1 or 15-1 at that time. And
something like that.
He's 16-0 on that one, so 15-1 if he was to win or lose. And then they're both completely drained. Like, you can tell that they went like an Iron Man, if you will, Michaels somehow gets on the top, and Taker somehow has the strength and the lungs to catch this guy out of midair, finish the job. 1, 2, 3, boom. It's all done. It's that's a number one match. It has to be on number one on a lot of people's lists, on a lot of the internet.
No,
my
absolutely.
opinion.
A lot of people call it the greatest WrestleMania match of all time for sure. Like,
yeah,
and I agree with you like completely in that regard. Like, it's definitely an incredible match. Like, it just shows you like, and like that finish that you were just talking about too. It just shows you how close the match was contested because one mistake from Shawn Michaels was all it took for him to lose. Like,
it was one mistake from Taker could have been,
could have been disastrous for sure. My number one. Funny enough, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 26.
Oh,
so look at that. Yep. From the very next year. The reason why, honestly, like I said, I love WrestleMania 25 to death. Like their match there, 100%. I'm honestly convinced that their match at 26, in my opinion, I think is better. Mostly because you have the added elements of streak versus career. You know, like, you know, the previous match was amazing and incredible and, you know, like 6 stars on the Meltzer scale. But, like, like, it's so back and forth. And, like, that's the catalyst for this amazing story that they're telling for 26. Shawn Michaels comes out and he accepts the Match of the Year Slammy Award at the end. And he's like, Undertaker, I want to dance again at WrestleMania. And Undertaker was the World Heavyweight Champion at the time. And he kept he kept leaving Shawn Michaels on read, as it were. You know? And it's like, you know, Undertaker goes through, Undertaker defends the World Heavyweight title against Rey Mysterio at the Royal Rumble, just perfectly fine. Shawn Michaels makes it to the Final 4 of that Rumble match, and he doesn't make it. And
Batista just slaps him out.
He's absolutely distraught. He's tearing up ringside, and he is so desperate to get that rematch with The Undertaker. So he goes last resort, and he has to cost Undertaker the title. So that's the great spot where he sneaks up through the Elimination Chamber and does the Sweet Chin music. Ironically enough, as we were talking about earlier, helping Jericho win the World Heavyweight title, who, if you remember, Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho had such a heated feud in 2008, and here Shawn Michaels is helping him win the title, just so
inadvertently,
just so he can get back at the Undertaker, exactly, you know, and like Undertaker finally accepts that challenge on the condition that Shawn Michaels' career is on the line, and you know, Michaels is like, yeah, because if I can't beat you, I have no career, and that match was, in my opinion, just as good as WrestleMania 25, if not better. The reason why this is my number one is because of those added stakes of streak versus career. Like, you know, I was watching WrestleMania 25 live, and, like, I have the DVD of it somewhere also. But, like, I used to be a DVD collector also. But it was like, you know, like, because the network didn't exist, you know, back when I was in high school.
I mean, who wasn't back then?
That's very true. But, like, you have all those, like, added elements. But that first match, I think the thing that it was missing was the stakes, really. Like, you know, they were fighting over...
Well, it was an exhibition.
It was an exhibition, yeah. But they were fighting for Undertaker's streak. But you also have Shawn Michaels' career on the line. He's got everything to lose here. Undertaker's got everything to lose. So these two guys are just throwing everything they can at each other. You know?
Right.
And
that was the first time we saw the leaping tombstone.
The leaping tombstone. Oh, my God. At the end, like... Shawn Michaels, Shawn Michaels was so incredible at what he does, and I still count this as his final match. I disregard Crown Jewel, but like,
what was that?
Exactly, yeah. So like, you know, like that. Oh, just that story, just that overarching, like that whole year of build leading up to that match. A very close friend of mine was actually at WrestleMania 26, and like he told me that he told me that he was going, and, like, you know, he calls me up on the phone, like, you know, kind of inadvertently, kind of to rub it in my face. Shout out to Andrew. But, like, I was just like, what the heck? You could have told me you were going. I would have loved to have gone. And he gets to see that match, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. And for so many reasons, if anybody has never seen the Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker like dual
one or two
thing, one or two, go watch them both. They're both on the network right now. They're great. That's our number one for sure. Close enough, I guess, to the same match.
That's not bad. But our list kept going like this, pretty close.
Our list kept like getting pretty close. Yeah, I think I had CM Punk and Cena at 2. I think you had it at 3. But both of our lists are very different. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what your guys' lists are. Feel free to sound off in the comments below. Before we go, do you want a quick lightning round of honorable mentions that didn't make the list?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So one of my honorable mentions, ended up being on the list. So I guess I won't use that one. That was the Jericho and Edge one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm curious what that
Randy Orton versus.
I'm curious what that Impact match was. Sorry to cut you off.
Nah, it was a final deletion.
Oh, yep. There you go.
Everything was a character. It was awesome.
Fair enough. Yeah, Brother Nero, I knew you'd come.
Dude, I love how he does it.
I love it. But,
I guess Randy Orton and John Cena, any time in the 2010s were awesome. Like after their feud in like 2009, they kind of like drifted apart for a little bit, but they were going back and forth for a while there for the WWE title. But anytime they're in a match together, it's like if it was like Triple H and Shawn together, or what's another good duo
like
that are always together. I guess you could put Punk and Bryan together; it'd always be good.
Yeah. That's a good. I feel like that's like a different kind of like feud from Orton and Cena. Like Punk and Bryan.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Punk and Bryan was pretty much like the Bret versus Shawn feud, I guess, of the modern era, and Orton versus Cena, I guess, was like the Triple H versus The Rock feud of the modern era.
There you go. Yeah, there's the feud I'm looking for.
It's Triple H and The Rock fought each other so much in the year 2000, especially. But I actually have a ton of matches that we were actually in the audience for live. Dana Bryan versus AJ Styles from TLC 2018.
That was a good one.
I kept trying to start a "This is art" chant in my section, and nobody was biting.
Nope.
It was like watching a New Japan match in WWE. It was just pure art. That's the best way I can describe it.
Well, you had 2 pure technical wrestlers that came from outside backgrounds of WWE in WWE fighting for the WWE Championship. Like it was
exactly.
You were on the mark on saying like, hey, this is art, right? Trying to make a little bit of the outside culture into WWE.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, San Jose crowd is just not like that. Our crowd is okay.
They can be. I guess it depends. But like, it's
like the guy with the.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, did you see the guy with the World Heavyweight Championship in the section right by me, freaking like flinging his thing? He got kicked out. He was like heavily intoxicated.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, it was during the Baron Corbin angle on the show. Like, Jacob was in the section like over from me, and the guy was unfortunately, the guy was super drunk. He ended up getting evacuated from the arena, and like my section and Jacob's section were like more watching that, and I was chanting at everybody, watch the match.
Right.
And I was and sure enough, that's when Kurt Angle comes out to accost Baron Corbin, and I lose my voice.
I lost my voice too.
Kurt Angle's like my dude, but like I also have Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks from Hell in a Cell 2019. I was in the audience for that one. Definitely saved the show. Definitely, I don't know if it was the better Hell in a Cell match on the show. Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt had the best Hell in a Cell match of all time, ending in a DQ.
No, yeah. How does that is the best. The best Cell match.
It wasn't the best. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
A small mallet is not okay, but Bray Wyatt can impale him with a giant mallet, basically. But Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks saved that show. Like, I also have the World Heavyweight Title Elimination Chamber match from 2011, where Edge and Rey Mysterio went the distance. Yeah, I remember being in the audience for that show. I was in the audience for that show. I was sitting on the floor. And like my section was closest to the pod where John Cena was in the main event of that show. But I remember for that match for the World Heavyweight Title, our section was closest to the pod with the Big Show inside of it. So it was like, I mean, I kind of had to like look around, like you know, like no disrespect, of course, but like, yeah, no, Big Show was, Big Show was definitely very receptive to the audience, and he was very intense. But like, I wanted to see Edge and Rey Mysterio duke it out too. Yeah, no, lots of matches from when I was there live. Oh, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn from TakeOver Dallas.
That was a good one. Yeah, Sami hadn't had very many good matches as of late. But his NXT days with Shinsuke too.
Yeah. I mean, his earlier days on the main roster I thought were great. His feud with Kevin Owens. I have their match at Battleground 2016 was really good.
their last one out of their 26 matches. Yeah.
Yep. There's the Shield triple threat has got to be on there.
That's a good one. Dude, the Shield and Money in the Bank. From the
yes,
Dean Ambrose cashing in after Rollins and Reigns.
Yeah,
that's a great show.
Yeah, Roman Reigns goes in as the champion. Seth Rollins beats Roman Reigns clean with a pedigree, which was shocking. Yeah. Like, we didn't know that Roman Reigns was going to be suspended the next night, so that's why they took the title off of him. But like, they put the title on Seth for like 5 minutes, and then Dean Ambrose, now known as Jon Moxley, comes out and he cashes in, and he's the new WWE champion. All 3 members of the Shield held the title at one point or the other.
Yeah, in one night too, which was awesome.
Great stuff.
You can't mention, or you can't forget to mention, I should say, the Miz, in his Intercontinental Championship reign with his wife. That whole match he had that involved the championship like on the line, right?
Yeah,
was always great because I mean, I think Maurice definitely star powered him up as the quote unquote A-lister, right? Because what A-lister doesn't have like that beautiful hot wife, kind of thing. And if you're saying you're the A-lister but you're in C+ movies, like doesn't really add.
Yeah.
So, and then he was doing all the Daniel Bryan moves, and that just was great when Daniel Bryan inevitably was able to come back. And him and Miz and Bryan were able to fight. When was it? Like SummerSlam? 18?
I think so. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, Bryan was cleared, and then they brought him back to fight the Miz for a bit.
That was a really good match too.
It was. Yeah. No, I think the match I'm thinking of from the Miz's IC title reign was Miz versus Dolph Ziggler, I guess. That means I have to talk about Dolph Ziggler.
Those guys have really good matches, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my viewers know that I'm not the biggest fan of Dolph Ziggler. Like it's
who is right now.
What?
Who is really at the moment? Like he was hot in like what, 2012?
Yeah. I mean, I'm willing to give him credit where it's due. He's a great worker. People already know my opinion, so I'm not going to go too into detail about it, but like he just rubs me the wrong way, point being. But Miz versus Ziggler at No Mercy is a match I'm thinking of with Ziggler's career on the line. I was actually this close to going to No Mercy 2016 also.
Really?
Just my schedules didn't line up, but I'm also thinking of Dolph Ziggler's underrated feud with John Cena when AJ Lee was there and Dolph Ziggler was Mr. Money in the Bank.
Oh, yeah, with Big E and everything.
Yeah, I think they had like a ladder match or something.
They did.
For the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was really good.
Oh, wow, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, hidden gems. This is what the honorable mention section is all about, finding those hidden gems, I guess.
Yeah, for real. That's why I'm like, huh.
Yeah, there you go. Hidden gem, John Cena versus Kevin Owens from Elimination Chamber 2015.
Come on, we were good all time, and then you paused. There you go.
Yeah, Kevin Owens beats John Cena clean basically when he's the NXT champion and Cena's the US champion. Like, oh man.
Oh, for the open, it wasn't the open challenge for the title at the time, but he was like,
Yeah.
I'm willing to fight. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like an angle where like Cena comes out on Raw and he issues the open challenge. Kevin Owens answers it, but he doesn't like wrestle John Cena for the title at all. It's more so like an angle to set up like the pay-per-view match, and like Kevin Owens like I think he gives like a pop-up powerbomb. It can't have been a package pile driver, but he does something to John Cena.
No,
like,
pop-up powerbomb,
yeah. And then he like takes the US title and he like stamps on it. He holds up the NXT belt, and I'm like, it's gonna be for the US title eventually. So like, probably
exactly.
Don't
it was also it was establishing a third brand at the time.
Yeah. NXT was just on the rise right there, and I only had 2 NXT matches on my list, but there's just way too many to name. Like,
there are a lot of them. A lot of them was like Finn Balor.
Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe.
There's Finn Balor versus Joe. Finn Balor versus Owens in a ladder match.
Yeah.
Finn Balor versus Lesnar and Beast in the East.
Did Balor fight Lesnar? I think
so. I think it was Lesnar.
No. You know what it was? Balor, a Beast from the East. That's where Balor won the NXT title for the first time. I think Lesnar.
Oh, in the ladder match.
Yeah, I think Lesnar fought. God, who did he fight on that show? Like, I want to say Kofi Kingston or something like that, but I could be wrong. But
it was Owens and Balor for the NXT title.
Okay, yeah. Oh, Beast from the East. Okay, cool. But yeah, do you have any more honorable mentions, my friend?
Man, let me see. I would have Evolution versus the Shield. It'd be way down in the list. Like, we had a top 20, it might have been like 20, but because of Blue Tista. Blue Tista. But that was great because I never got to see Evolution, growing up. When Evolution was in wrestling and all that, I was one of those people where like, oh, I would go like, oh, wrestling's fake, or wrestling looks stupid or something like that at that time. I was a kid. I didn't know any better. No one judged me on this channel.
Oh, hey, no, it's all good. It's all good. No, I personally that was around the time I was starting to watch wrestling. Like, Evolution was at the height of their game. Like, Triple H was I think when I first started watching was right around the time when Triple H was handed the World Heavyweight title, and like
from Bischoff,
and like, that's when Evolution was like Evolution was so great, and to see them come back and fight the Shield like that. I think they had like a series of matches before Seth Rollins turned on the Shield, Plan B style. But yeah, one more. I have one more honorable mention that I'd like to talk about. Roman Reigns. Speaking of the Shield, Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles from Extreme Rules for the title.
When Roman would for the title, Roman was not a good IC champion.
Yeah, no, it was for the world title. It wasn't
world title. Excuse me.
Yeah,
he was the U.S. title holder.
Yeah, you took the U.S. title as a demotion. Like one of the.
Dude, we could talk promos.
Oh,
there are a
man,
ton of
promos
in the last 5 years.
In the last 5 years, oh man, yeah, might have to save that for another installment. But yeah, thank you so much, Jacob, for hopping on the podcast tonight. This was a ton of fun.
This is great, man. Thanks.
Hey, pleasure's all mine. I definitely look forward to more of Jacob on the channel for sure, to talk some more wrestling, because we love it over here. But thank you all so much, as always, for tuning into the video. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can. Make sure to leave a like on the video as well. And feel free to voice your top 10 matches of the 2010s in the comments down below. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I'm sure everybody's list is going to be so different, like ours were. But this was a ton of fun. Thank you all once again. Thank you to Jacob for joining me. With all that being said, Back Talk commence.